Welcome to Whiskey and Wool. This is my Knitter's Life series, Season 2, Episode 3. How are you? I hope you're doing well. It is about mid-morning on the weekend here in northern New Jersey, where I work, live, and craft. Yes, my name is Shannon. My contact has already been put on screen, I think. As to where you can find me, I'm Whiskey and Wool on Instagram and on Ravelry and here on YouTube. Welcome. Thank you so much for spending some time with me, some of your crafting time with me as I talk to you about where I'm at, what I'm working on, and what has grabbed my attention the past couple weeks. So, I finished a sweater. Yay! The Yesteryears by Maxim Cyr. I'm going to talk to you about it more after the whiskey chat, which is, I filmed it last night and on Friday. So I'm gonna share that with you now. It's a pretty interesting whiskey. If you don't want to watch it, that's fine. I'll tell you where to skip to on screen right here. If you're new here, whiskey chats run about 10 minutes. And it's just me talking to you about a particular whiskey distillery and tasting the whiskey on screen and sharing with you my thoughts as well as what experts say about that particular whiskey. How are you? I am going to do a little whiskey chat. It is Friday evening and I finished work. I finished working out. I even vacuumed. Need to keep those moths from getting a foothold. Now that you've watched my moth episode. Little mister is right over here making biscuits on the blanket. He's so cute. So I am going to taste with you today this whiskey from my advent calendar that is from flavier.com. This is day 24 and it is, I hope I say this right, I know you'll correct me if I'm wrong, Ardnamurchan. Hang on, I need to look at it because I had Ardnamurchan. They are a fairly new distillery that the whiskey comes out of a fairly new distillery. In fact, they have only been in business for about a little over 8 years, about 9 years now, because it is 2022. This bottling is from 2021. They have a unique way of labeling their bottles, which I'm going to put a picture on screen of the one I'm tasting. They put the date on it, and they use this term AD for Ardnamurchan Distillery. And then they have the date. They began production in 2014, but the company that owns them, Adelphi Distillery, they have roots in whiskey making going all the way back to 1826, probably before that, as we've discussed in the past about Scottish whiskey. It was illegal to distill whiskey in Scotland until the around 1820s because of all of the political strife that was happening between the British Crown and the Scottish Isles. So yeah, that was the period of time, the early 1820s, 1824, I believe is the exact year, that distilling licenses began to be granted to folks in Scotland. So the Adelphi Distillery began business in 1826, and it was established by Charles and David Gray on the banks of the River Clyde, just south of the Victorian Bridge on the northern edge of the Gorbals. I'm not sure exactly where that is, but I'm going to put more info on screen so I don't have to backtrack and figure that out right now. The cool thing, the interesting thing, I mean, there was a lot of changing of hands and stuff with this company, and Adelphi went into the hands of the Walker family Walker and Company in the 1880s, and it remained with them for quite some time until the 1900s, where it was bought by the Distiller Company Ltd. Limited. And is there anything else I could tell you? I think they still own it. The original Adelphi distillery was demolished in the 1970s. I think this is in the Glasgow area. Anyway, that company has a couple other distilleries, and they decided to open one on the Ardnamurchan Peninsula. I'm just smiling because I'm probably saying it wrong. Ardnamurchan. They decided to open that on a peninsula. That's a region, actually, in Scotland. It is known as the westernmost area of the British Isles and mainland area, because there are certainly islands that are more western. So this distillery is officially the most western mainland distillery in all of Scotland. The area is quite remote. It is gorgeous. It has, it's known for the sort of being this rustic, wild part of the countryside. There are certainly towns and people, of course, but the coastline is stunning. And I'll put some pictures in here. It's really spectacular. There's a lot of walking trails. It's known as the most remote of the remote Western Highland peninsulas, and it's has only I think a single access route from the more core mainland area, and yeah, it looks amazing. Like, I would really be interested in going. It is a little bit north of the Isle of Mull if you want some orientation. I've probably popped some maps on here and stuff. So anyway, this distillery, because it was established in 2014, it was not able to make any releases of whiskey made on that premises until last year, until 2021. So this, what I'm drinking, is the first release, and the first release maybe not from the distillery, but the first release certainly in the U.S. So, and I think Flavier is a U.S. company, if I'm not mistaken. I could be mistaken. I know that they ship pretty extensively in the U.S. Okay. The distillery website has a pretty extensive history video that you can watch. I'll link it in the show notes, or I'll put the website in the show notes if you're interested in learning more than just the little snapshot that I've given you. Because they're pretty new, they're doing a very limited bottling. This bottle that I'm having a taste from retailed for around $65. You can't get it anymore. It is sold out everywhere. And yeah, so it's rare, but it's not expensive. It's not one of those like $500 or $800 bottles that, hardly anyone can afford. So it was certainly affordable, just rare. Is there anything else I can tell you? In terms of their casks and stuff, they say, or what they say they do, they are allocating a small number of private casks each year to individuals, along with a limited amount of trade fillings. They are making what they call a typical Highland whiskey: fruit, sweety, and spicy. Quality of spirit is a must, and the make is a lovely full-bodied spirit with lots of flavor, creamy fruit, and bit peppery. So that's what they say about what they're doing. They're splitting their production between 50% unpeated and 50% peated. And they're using the typical Spanish sherry barrels, as well as Spanish and American oak butts, and they don't do any cask finishes. So cask finish, I've talked about it a little bit in the past, but a cask finish will be where a whiskey might spend the last 6 months or so of the aging process, get it in a different type of cask to get like some different finishing flavors, such as like Burgundy casks, for example, though that would be kind of exotic. So yeah, that is where we're at. They're making a pretty limited run, about 2,400 bottles a year so far, but you know, they're probably going to increase production soon. Oh yeah, so distilling capacity 500,000 liters. All right, so let's taste. Let's see what we got here. Okay, I really smell bread. It smells a lot like bread, but there's also some sweet scents in the background. Overwhelming like yeast, but also caramel. Definitely some fruit. Not citrus though, richer than citrus, like plum maybe. Okay. Oh boy. Wow. Wow. What a burn. Oof. My eyes are starting to water a little bit. Oh my goodness. I don't think the alcohol content, wow. No, it's only 47%. So it's not strong, and I did put water. Oh my goodness. Okay. It surprised me. All right. Yeah. Okay. So there's some like woody, smoky in the middle. I'm really tasting a lot of spice, which is made my eyes tear. Probably not ginger, something more subtle, but along that line. Cloves, maybe? There's fruit too. I just can't put my finger on it. Maybe it's apple or pear. It's pretty subtle. And that like sort of sweet cake-like taste. All right, let me see what Flavier says. So, Flavier says, they call the color naturally golden. On the nose carries nutmeg, toffee apple, creme brulee, linseed, oranges, cardamom, and a whiff of honey, nougat, saltwater, and driftwood. So none of the bread that I'm smelling. I mean, it's really strong, like sort of yeasty to me. Taste: grapefruit marmalade, flambe orange peel, pear, peach, sweet soy sauce, gentle minerals, pepper, and campfire. So I wasn't wrong about the sort of charcoaly taste that was there. The finish is long and balanced. I don't know why I got that burn at the beginning. Wow, it really took me by surprise. All right, I hope you enjoyed this little whiskey chat. This is a very interesting whiskey. This is an exciting young distillery that will be producing, I'm sure, for many, many, many years into the future, and I'm excited to see what they end up doing and what they end up producing. I hope you get to enjoy a glass of your own or maybe a different whiskey, and I will see you next time. Hey, welcome back. Hope you enjoyed that if you watched it, and if you didn't, that's fine too. So before I jump into talking to you about this sweater, I wanted to just say that the weather here has been very cold and snowy, so there's probably lots of clips that you've watched with snow. We had an ice storm last night that melted a lot of the snow, but it's very, very cold. It is around 25 degrees here this morning. This is pretty cold Fahrenheit. So anyway, I finished the Yesteryears sweater by Maxim Cyr, I knitted out of Wing and a Prayer Farm. I have very little left. The main color is Wing and a Prayer Farm. Sorry, the light is a little, I mean, I love it. It's like a lot of natural light, but this zone right here is really getting it directly, some direct sunlight. So anyway, Wing and a Prayer Farm. I knitted out of the Happiest yarn, which is a blend of, at least this year, of Shetland, Clune Forest, and Cormo, spun into a light worsted, I would say. Probably would even you could get away with knitting it as a DK. I think officially it's, yeah, she calls it light worsted. And I would say that's probably pretty accurate. This is all I have left. I bought 3 skeins of this, and they're 900. It was 900 yards, so 300 yards total per skein. I probably, if I wanted a longer, slouchier sweater, a 4th skein would have been useful. But the way that Tammy, if you're not familiar with Wing and a Prayer, she has an Etsy shop, so that's where you buy her products. The way that Tammy dyes, everything's naturally dyed in small batches. So it wasn't like I could go back to her site and pick up another skein and just work it. I had to deal with what I had. And I think I purchased this yarn at some point in the summer. I want to say it was like August or maybe even September. But yeah, it's so nice. I've already worn this sweater a few times. I really love the way it feels. It is just gorgeous, and I love this color. This color is called Blue Jeans, so it's like kind of a heathered indigo. It's indigo dyed on a gray base, so it's like this beautiful heather tonal grays. I did end up with a color change in the cuff. I'm just gonna leave it. What I thought about maybe ripping it back a bit and then alternating rows with this and this yarn, but I don't mind it. I don't think it's that noticeable. You know, it probably looks more noticeable on camera than it does in life. And I think what happened, it's not so much that it was 2 different dye lots. I think the dye lot was the same. I just think the dye, the blue dye was, it's a tonal skein, so the blue dye wasn't necessarily, the saturation wasn't the same across the whole skein. So when I pulled from the center instead of pulling from the outside, the color was a better match. So that's what I ended up doing for the second sleeve, because I think this was the first sleeve. Yeah, this was the first sleeve. I will have maybe already done this, but if I haven't, I will put a picture on screen of me standing up wearing it. I styled it with jeans, and then I styled it with a really pretty skirt that just happened to be these colors. The contrast color is this yarn right here. This is a hand spun by me, and I spun it. It's a 3-ply that I spun in, I actually don't remember exactly how. I think I spun it in a fractal manner, but the way that it came out, it self-striped into 2 chunks that were rust, so a rust chunk on the outside, then this like periwinkle blue, and then a rust chunk, and then periwinkle blue was the way that the way the yarn caked up. And yeah, I didn't end up using it all, so I'll have to think of something. I probably am going to end up doing a scrappy hand spun project at some point. I don't know when. But yeah, that is what the other yarn is. And if you watched La Bien-Aimé's Knit Night with Les Garçons, you saw Vincent and Max on that knit night, and there was a little shout out to where Max mentioned my sweater, so I deeply appreciate that, and I've told him so. So yeah, thank you viewers who let me know that that was happening. And by the way, if you're not watching those La Bien-Aimé knit nights, whether you're attending them, I think they're open attendance, anyone can go. They're usually during the day for my time, during a work day. So she does them, I think they end up being like Friday noon or 1 o'clock. So I'm working during those hours. I can't really take time to sit and knit with them, but she does upload the videos after the fact on her YouTube channel. So you can watch them anytime. They are so good. I really love the way she organizes the knit night and how she, really puts on a very nice presentation, speaking with people that she's friends with, but that are also really interesting people in the industry. So definitely check out those if you haven't already. Yeah, so that is my finished object. Oh, I have a second finished object which I left on the bed over there, and I'll bring it on over. Meanwhile, you can look at one of my whips that Martha's wearing. My second finished object. I finished socks, and oh, I got sock blockers. These socks are for my sister. This is the Drea Renee, Andrea Mowry, DRK Everyday sock pattern. I don't know why I'm struggling over this. I knit it in a sport weight yarn. This one right here from Olan. This was a one-of-a-kind skein. And I only knit about half of it. I did use, because it's sport weight, I did use bigger needles, and also this, as I said, these are for my sister. Her foot's a little bigger than mine. So these blockers are actually for my size. But there's extra room. These don't exactly fit on here very well. And yeah, so I used a slightly bigger needle and slightly thicker yarn to get the pattern to work for her foot size. And I think she's like a size 9, women's 9 shoe, US size 9. I love having blockers. You know, the reason that I bought them wasn't so much for blocking socks or, you know, but though this is really going to be nice because if you know the Drea Renee knits pattern, the sock, when you block it, it usually ends up looking really, really skinny. And I didn't want my sister to get them and go, oh no, because I already made her a pair and they were too small. I didn't want her to get them and go, oh no, these are also going to be too small. So these actually have a lot of stretch to them, the way that the pattern is written. The actual reason why I decided to go ahead and buy blockers is because I have knit some socks out of my hand spun, and when I washed them, there was a little shrinkage, and I thought to myself, wow, if I had blockers, that I'd be able to stretch them out very easily back to my size. So that was the reason that I got them. I bought these on Etsy from a woodworker who I think he's in the Midwest somewhere, but I'll put his information in the description bar below if you're interested. I really wanted some nice thick, like 3/8 inch thick plywood, and he makes them several sizes. So I think this is a woman size 8 to 9, and my shoe size is an 8 or 8.5. So yeah, 2 finished objects this week. I am actually like stunned that I was able to get as much knitting done as I did. I don't know why. It just like I finished this, I finished those. I'm so glad I finished those socks because I have other socks that I want to knit. But before I get into more sock knitting, I want to talk to you about what Martha's wearing. Martha is my mannequin. She is my size. And she is wearing my Cashmere Advent from Cashmere Treats. Yeah, I bought a 24-day DK Pure Cashmere mini skein set from Jessica of Cashmere Treats. It was beautifully packaged. If you watched any of my Vlogmases, you saw me opening them. And I had got her 12-day last year, and I knit a sweater out of it. And this year, I got the 24 skein one, knowing that I was going to be making a scrappy half and half wrap triangle wrap. This is the half and half triangle wrap by Purl Soho. Having trouble getting it off of there, and I don't want to lose stitches. Yay. Okay. So yeah, half and half triangle wrap by Purl Soho. I have completed one side, the pink side, and I am knitting on the second side, which is this blue color so far. It's changing though. I have finished knitting the blue. I'm not doing a very good job explaining this, so let me explain. It was 24 mini skeins. I have some here in this bag caked up, and what I did was I knit one section, the first section of the half and half wrap. I knit using the first 6, and then I knit those until they were gone, and then I swapped in the next 6 mini skeins. So that's what you're seeing in this section here. These those colors there, not the yellow. The yellow was an extra scrap from Clinton Hill that I just worked in randomly until it was gone, and it was, I think I got it in maybe 4 or 5 times before it was completely gone. And then I ran out of those mini skeins the second 6 days, and then I just used 2 big fat skeins that I had, 2 full skeins. So I had purchased separately 4 full skeins, 2 that were 2 different colors, and then 2 that were the same color. And one of them is this like kind of speckled natural color, and then the other full skein was this tonal purpley pink, like passion pink. And then so I have 2 of those natural colored ones. And so I decided to use 1 natural colored skein on the pink side along with the full skein of pink. And then on the other side I had still have a dab left of a pink to blue two-tone. Whoops. Not used to not having this zone here. Along with that, a full skein of natural with speckles. Yeah, so these 2 are on the blue, purpley blue side. However, the last 6 colors are this palette here. So it's sort of a sagey green to gold to peach. So this is actually pretty peachy. I know it looks beige on screen, but it's actually a peach. And what I also have in here, I have 2 skeins, mini skeins of gold, because this gold skein is left over from the 12 skein mini set that I had last year. And I also worked in other mini skein sets from last year. So this red is from last year as well. And then I also have worked in some scraps, some other scraps. And there was another, on the blue side, I had a blue mini skein from last year, a solid blue. So that's why there is a lot more blue on this side. I love the way this corner looks. This is probably my favorite section right here. Look at that. Looks so good. This is what got me going. So knitting, when you knit this pattern, you start out on this edge over here, this long edge, and then you're slowly decreasing until you get down to one last final stitch. So that happened here at this point, and then you slowly increase. So you're doing 1 stitch, 2 stitch, 3, 4, 5, so on and so on and so on, and slowly growing back out again. And the whole thing ends up being either like kind of a square or maybe like a slightly longer on one side rectangle, but square-ish rectangle, like pretty close to a square. But yeah, when I was knitting my way through here, and then I switched colors and I was on the other side, and I just decided to use up that full skein of pink before I moved into that next section of 6 mini skeins. It was so addictive. It was just like working my way through. The only other rule I gave myself besides dividing that 24 mini skein set into 4 groups of 6, the only other thing that I did was I decided to only knit either 1, 2, or 3 ridges of color before I changed colors. So that's what you're seeing here. I do wish in this area I mixed it up a little more, because I do really love the way this came out. The other side came out. I think the way I mixed the colors, I got better at it as I progressed, and I think the way I mix the colors on this side is I don't know, just I like it more. Something about it. It's a little more pleasing. And then besides using those mini skeins and full skeins, I did work in some scraps. As I said, I had a little dab of this yellow. I also had a little dab of gray from Clinton Hill Cashmere. And then I had a couple other little mini leftovers from the mini skeins from last year that just kind of blended in. So I really felt good about using up all of those scraps. And when I'm completely done, I think I'll be able to summarize for you how many skeins you would need if you wanted to do something similar. I think it's probably around 9 skeins, but I'll know exactly 9 skeins from Cashmere Treats, full skeins. I think that's how much you would end up needing, maybe 8. I do think this one, I don't think I'm going to use all of this up, because I have so much left, but we'll see. I mean, I think this pattern can be pretty deceptive in terms of its yarn consumption, because it's kind of hard to know. It's kind of hard to guesstimate. Like when you're knitting a sweater, you know, like I always know, oh, my sleeves are 30% of what I'm using in the body, and I know that getting to the point where I'm separating for the sleeves, I'll also be using about 1/3 of the yarn. So I can pretty much guesstimate how much more I need in order to finish something, and I can see, oh, I'm going to be short, or oh, I have plenty. I could have bought less. Those conversations that we have with ourselves. So yeah, anyway, hard to understand and estimate with this pattern. I do estimate I am 3/4 of the way done with it. You could see that I am at this point, and then I have that much more to go. And just in matching it to the other side, I'm almost past the area where I started with the second group of mini skein sets, and I think they would have matched better if I had done a better job integrating more of the full skein down here in this area. I don't think I did such a great job with that, but you know, it's scrappy and I love it. I think it looks good. So I'm happy with it. Can I just see if I can dress Martha back? How is that? Is that a nice view for you to look at? You can see how, yeah, so I'm not so happy with this section here, but you know, the overall scheme of things, I think it looks fine, and it's certainly a fun and luxurious project to work on. Okay, updating you on my other shawl that I've had on the needles. I don't have much to say about this one because I have not made much progress. I did make it to day 17, yay! This is the Olan Advent Knit. Olan hand-dyed yarn company did, if you're not familiar, she's an indie dyer over in Ireland, and she has a mill. She bought a mill in the middle of the pandemic. She bought it before, I think, but it arrived at the beginning of the pandemic. So yeah, so I have made a little progress. I probably knit about, you know, another 8 or so inches. This project, I love the results, but it's one that requires concentration when I'm knitting, so it's not one that I necessarily reach for. I don't know if you could see the change of color. I changed the mill color. The old one ended here. What you're supposed to do for this border is you knit as far as you can go with a mill spun, and then you switch to another mill spun, and then same with you're alternating a skein of, maybe you could see the color change better on the back. Yeah, I think you can see it right about there. You're alternating a skein of a mini skein indie dyed sock yarn with mill spun sock yarn. So or not, I don't really think it's meant for socks, but fingering weight yarn. And, you know, the whole project it's really beautiful. This is what it looks like. I'll put pictures on screen. Yeah, I mean, I think it's gorgeous, but there's no resting with this pattern. None. I'll get it done. It'll be a while. I'm seeing this as being done sometime in the spring. If I get it done before the end of March, I'll consider that a success. Not that it'll be a failure if it takes me longer, but anyway. Okay. New cast-ons. I have a couple new cast-ons. And yeah, so since I finished one worsted sweater from the worsted book. Oh, I didn't finish telling you that Yesteryears is from the worsted book. I probably put it all on screen in the time that I was talking about that, because I tend to edit up wherever I mess up. But yeah, so I cast on another pattern from the Worsted magazine. This is Perennial by Nora Gahn. Just trying to figure out where I'm at. Okay, yeah, this is the back. So you can see I haven't done one, I haven't completed one repeat of the cable yet, but I think I did pretty okay. I'm knitting it out of the yarn that it called for. It's Corey Worsted from La Bien Aimée. I had purchased this when I went to Rhinebeck in October. This is her Corey Worsted. It's a new base. It's a gray colored base that she's dyeing in all her colors. This is the colorway Kitsune. Might need to pull the shade. But yeah, I love it so far. Knitting this yarn is amazing. It's so gorgeous. It just knits up so beautifully. Maybe I can hold it close and you can see. There you go. Look at that color. That's a good color up. I alternated the pattern slightly. So the pattern, I modified it, I should say. The pattern is called for knitting in pieces, and I didn't want to do that. So I am knitting in the round, front and back together. And one of the other mods I made was in the front, her pattern has a dip where it would rise up and then drop down again. So there's a dip like right across your stomach. And it's meant to be, I think, a cropped or cropped-ish length. And when I was checking out the pattern and swatching for it, one of my sons was here and he looked over my shoulder at what I was knitting and was just like, that is the silliest hemline I've ever seen. Why would you want to emphasize that part of your body? And I didn't have an answer. So I thought, you know, I think he's right. I think I'm just going to do a straight line. So doing a straight line allowed me to knit both pieces together in the round, and that'll be like a little less seaming. So what I'll do is I'll knit this up to, in the round, up to the armpit, and then I'll split the two sides and knit the back and then knit the front as the way that the pattern's written, and then I will end up with a shoulder seam and I'll end up with an armhole seam. I'm also going to knit the sleeves in the round too, up to the armpit. So I'll start at the cuff, because you do start at the cuff and you're supposed to knit it flat, but I'm going to knit in the round just because it's more efficient, I think. And the sleeves are plain, so there's not really, you know, you're not having to try to like rest from doing a cable or anything like that, though a cable on that sleeve would be pretty cool. But yeah, I'm so excited about this. I think I mentioned this before, but I decided to, for my knitting this winter, I decided to prioritize the heavier weight sweaters so that I can get some wear out of them before it's springtime, and then in the spring I'll go back to knitting more lightweight fingering weight sweaters and stuff like that. Okay, one more new cast on. So I joined the Andrea Mowry knit along, sock knit along that she's doing right now. I think it goes from now till the end of March. And the idea is that you spin yarn. It's a spin knit along. I don't remember the hashtag, but I'll put it on screen. And you knit you spin yarn, spin some yarn for socks, and then you knit them. And I'm working on another spin project, which I'm going to talk to you about in a few minutes. So I didn't want to stop and spin a skein for socks when I had some beautiful appropriate for sock yarn already spun. So I have cast on for that cowl you must knit her for the cowl. You must knit the DRK Everyday Sock, which has become my go-to sock pattern. So I was like, great, I'm all in. So I've cast that on, and I am knitting it out of some hand spun, some 2-ply hand spun from batlings that I bought from Green Goat Ranch in the Fairy Godmother colorway. Yeah, I just love this so much. It ends up like, I don't know if you can really see, but it's pretty much a marled yarn. There you go. You can see it now. It's pretty much a marl, a sort of periwinkle blue, a cool toned blue with pink, this cool toned pink, and it's supposed to be inspired by the dance at the end of Cinderella, not Sleeping Beauty, Cinderella, when her dress is changing colors. So that's what this is inspired by. Yeah, it's so pretty and has like a subtle sparkle. I think it's going to make amazing, beautiful socks. So excited about that. And then what I'm going to do after I'm done with this sock, this knit along, this sock knit along, I'm going to start making some DK weight socks using the same pattern as I had made for one of my friends for Christmas time. So that's where my sock journey is heading, at least in the immediate future. So anyway, that is all of my knitting. And now I have spinning to share with you. I plied the chunky, it's really chunky, this chunky weight fiber. I don't remember who I bought this from, and I didn't write it down in my on my Ravelry fiber page, like when I on my stash page. I don't know who I got this from. I want to say it's definitely an indie maker, and I think she only does a few like kind of one-off, one of a kind kind of thing. That's what I think. I might be wrong. If I remember, I will I'll update the listing down the road, because I looked high and low and I just had a hard time figuring out who I bought the fiber from. But it's I think it'll make a really nice hat. It's a beautiful blend of Shetland and some other fibers. It's like a pretty mishmashed batch of fiber, and I spun it long draw, and it's just a regular old 2-ply, but using long draw method. So it came out making this really beautiful neutral. Sorry about the blowout there. There, that's good representation. The little, like those mossy greens and a pale blue and some natural colors in there. It's really, really beautiful. So I got that plied. That was on the bobbins last time. And then the other thing that has been taking up most of my time, most of my spinning energy, is this project. And this is some beautiful Polworth. So I have like a pet peeve. It really bugs me when people that are recording complain about the light. And here I am, like, you're probably like going, oh my goodness, girl, get your light problems fixed. It's really a matter of pulling the shade down, but I'm almost done, so I kind of don't want to. Anyway, 100% Pulworth. I think that's probably a good color rep. This is a 3-ply, and I'm spinning it for, I think I'm going to make a version of the Don't Look Up sweater, which Jennifer Lawrence wore, and there are several other knitters who have forged ahead and created charts that are available for free. And the easiest way to find the charts and things is and the pattern suggestions is to just go to the Don't Look Up sweater hashtag on Instagram. Yeah, so I think that's what I'm going to end up making with this. I bought 10 ounces of this in September. This is fiber from Sea Colors Yarn, Nan of Sea Colors Yarn. She's a Maine Pulworth sheep farmer. And this is natural. This is a natural brown sheep color that she calls cinnamon. And yeah, she still has some. I know because I ordered more. I quickly realized after I made one skein of 3-ply that I only had enough fiber to make about 700 yards, and I would need at least 1,000, maybe even 1,200 would be a good amount to have to make a worsted weight sweater. So the yarn, I wish you could see the plies, because this is like probably the best plying I've ever done. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm gonna have to show you some other time. Oh, there you go. Look at that. So good. So good. And Pulworth is notorious for when you soak it, it really just poofs up and makes like such a squishy yarn. This skein is about, I think it's about 90 grams, and it's about 200 yards. So that's pretty spot on worsted weight. So yeah, I realized that I needed a little more fiber, so I have some more fiber coming. So I'm about halfway through the second skein, so I have enough fiber on hand to make 3 skeins, and then more fiber coming that'll let me make 2 more. So I'll end up with about probably somewhere in that 1,000 to 1,200, probably around 1,100 yards of some beautiful worsted Pulworth weight. That'll just be amazing. I hope I've spun the twist tight enough that it doesn't pill a whole lot. Really, that drives me crazy. I know pilling is inevitable with all knits, but some are worse than others. And I have one sweater, it wasn't one that I spun, some not even commercial, but from an indie maker, and wow, it pills like crazy. All right, that is everything. Oh, I have, that is all my crafting. I do have one little clip here I want to show you where I was exploring color options for that pattern, Don't Look Up. So I want to share that clip with you. It's actually probably the teaser image. So let me share that. Give you a little kind of mini color lesson-ish, sort of like me just talking through how I'm choosing colors for that sweater. It's been a little while since I've done any color selection videos on this channel, so yeah, let's look at one. Okay, so I've told you that I'm spinning this sweater's quantity, and I'm thinking I'm gonna do the Don't Look Up sweater out of this beautiful Pulworth yarn from handspun from Sea Colors Pulworth flock in Maine. And I recently spun this skein here out of some Pancake and Lulu fiber that I got that was hand painted in a pale green to turquoise to bright pink, and I fractal spun it. Anyway, talked about this in another video. So yeah, I think I want to use this as one of the 2 colors. This will be the main color, then this will be the second color. This will be where the pink is in the pattern. And so now I'm faced with what is the other color, and I think I'm leaning towards like a black or gray to kind of stick with the way that the original was done, but I wanted to just explore that with you. So let's start with this. So what I want to do in order to explore that is I want to locate where these two skeins turn up on the color wheel. And then from there I can figure out what might work best. So the first thing to notice is that this brown is falling into the orange area, the orange section. And this multicolor is sort of a combination. I think the best way to look at it is going to be this way. Okay. So this is a combination of red, the red color family, and that yellow green. Hold on, let me turn this over where you can see the green a little better. That yellow green stretch, and then also the blue green stretch for that turquoise. So what's happening in this skein is basically this triangle right here, that small, narrow, tall, narrow triangle. So I'm getting the pink combined with this yellow green and blue green together in one skein. That makes it challenging to figure out what else goes with this. So I think the best way to do this, because the brown is falling out over here in the orange, and then I've got this triad of colors for the other contrast color, I think the way to do it is to try to line up the pink and the orange with a square, and then seeing what ends up on the other side, or with a rectangle, seeing what ends up on the other side. So on the other side, then I get green and I get blue, if I'm following that one. Another way to do it would be to match these two, match the triangle, the inside triangle, the tall, narrow triangle. I get the orange, I get the pink, and then I get blue-green. So I actually find that more interesting than trying to incorporate blue or green. But really, what it winds up being, I'm just going to whip this around so you can see all the palette. If I land somewhere in this color family, I'm going to end up with a third color that's going to work really well with everything that's going on in here and this. So that's my theory anyway. And the reason that I am focusing more on the blue-green is because that's one of the colors in this skein that is probably the lightest. It's the least dominant color. The pink is really what's dominant here, and then this sagey green really kind of complements it. So we almost have this direct contrast, though the green is definitely more in this yellow-green family. Okay, so if I'm looking at these three over here, what should go well with it? So I pulled some swatches. This is probably a little too bright, although it would work. It's just a little bit bright for what I want to do. This would be in the blue family. I like that better, I think, as a trio. I pulled these over. This is also quite interesting. This has some red in it. And on the color wheel, it would end up being pretty much right in between there. I mean, it's got a little bit of both of those colors going on, and that actually looks pretty good. This is a little dab of hand spun that I had, but I'm just trying to do this for color. I'll figure out the fiber after I figure out what color it's got to be. And I think that would look pretty nice, though I would want this not to be a marled yarn because there's already some stuff happening there. I'd want this to be at most a tonal. So yeah, that might be a good way to go. I did actually also have a fiber in mind, and I was looking at this. This is Corriedale from Into the World. It is called The Perfect Storm. I got it in the June 2021 Fiber Club, but I think this could work. I'm worried it might come out a little dark, but it definitely is in that color family. So I think what I need to do is spin this up and just see what I get, see how it looks. Like, I think once I start making singles out of it, I'll know. But I think that could be really pretty. And this may end up doing what this is doing, but in a more tonal way without the red, which I think will work pretty nicely. I'll let you know. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. My last segment is always either lifestyle or allyship. I've been trying to talk a little bit about allyship. I'm a professor in life, so that's what I actually do. I have been thinking about incorporating concepts of allyship in more concretely into each of the classes that I teach. I teach classes about relationships and about feminism and stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, it's become really, really apparent that it's super important to talk about these issues more. So I wanted to because it's important for the people who are in the minority populations, no matter what makes them a minority, whether it's skin tone or whether it's gender identity or all of those identity politics. It seems really important that people understand and recognize their own biases. So what I've realized in doing this series on this channel is that it's an unrealistic expectation to think that people are going to watch each and every segment, each and every time I do allyship, that people will watch it and that you can actually build on that learning. So you'll be able to build on that learning, but it's not responsible of me to try to present it in a linear fashion. So what I've realized is that it's probably better to just create these little groupings, like a little capsule, so to speak, that can stand alone, or you could use it yourself to build on your own knowledge base. So I've come up with today's segment is going to be very short and sweet. Last time I talked about microaggressions, and what I realized in reading some of the feedback that I got from people about that, like in the comments and stuff below, was that I maybe skipped a step. So maybe it would be important to understand first stereotyping. So let me just tell you what I tell my students about stereotyping in a nutshell. The nutshell version of stereotyping is that it's not entirely, it is useful, but it's also not useful, and it can be harmful. So those are the important things to know. The second thing I really want you to know is that trying to prevent yourself from stereotyping is probably as hard as it is to prevent yourself from eating all day. Like, it's just something that we do. Our brains, it's a shortcut for our brains. So our brains will use stereotyping to help us make sense of information that's coming into our brains very, very quickly. And what I tell my students is to just accept the fact that you will stereotype, because it is a way for your brain to make use of all this information, because we live in a very fast-paced world. But what I want you to do when you find yourself stereotyping is quickly say to yourself, but I might be wrong. But I might be wrong. Because by doing that, by saying that to yourself, as you find yourself making a judgment call and stereotyping, you are allowing change to happen. So you are allowing your perspective to shift. And that's important. It's a very important aspect of allyship, is to let yourself shift. Allow that shift to happen. I'm going to try to give you a good example of how this happens. So it may be judgments and stereotyping can happen in many, many forms. It could be, stereotypes could be based on race, it could be based on ethnicity, it could be based on, we're really making judgments about other people based on their appearance when we're stereotyping. And if you don't say, but I might be wrong, you will always think that stereotyping becomes self-fulfilling prophecies in a way, or fulfilling, like you will look for the information that proves your perspective to be correct. So by saying, but I might be wrong, you're opening that door for someone to change and surprise you and be different than you thought. So a good example, I'm going to just base this on appearance. I'm going to make an appearance-based judgment. Might be if you're walking into a really, really posh store or restaurant, and you see a woman dressed in sweats and flip-flops, and maybe she stands out because everyone else is dressed a little bit more chic, you know? So you might jump to the conclusion that that person is poor, or let's just say that's what you decided, that they just can't afford to dress better. You absolutely could be wrong. There could be any number of reasons why that person may have worn sweats to that environment. It may be that they are jet lagged and they're super tired, or it may be that they are trying to prove some other points. Maybe they're mentally ill. Like, you really don't know why that person may have been dressed that way in that particular establishment. And I'm pretty certain that, you know, you may have found in that scenario that the person making the stereotype or passing the judgment may have had a good reason for it. Like, you just look around and you're like, ooh, you know, maybe that was kind of a out of place sort of way to dress in that particular location. So you can quickly, I think you can see if in practice, so I want you to practice this if you haven't already. And I think you'll notice quickly in practice that your brain will suddenly come up when you say it, but I might be wrong. Your brain will suddenly come up with a lot of other reasons for why that person might be doing or looking the way that they look. I hope that makes sense. I hope you found that useful. I find it so useful. It has really helped me practicing that, being mindful about my thoughts, observing when I'm stereotyping, and making those observations is so important, and has really helped me grow as a person, and has really helped me just see myself and self-monitor and self-moderate some of the things that I do. And I think that is really, really useful. And I think when you get to that point where you're doing that regularly, it's easier to see microaggressions. So, but I'll come back. I'll bring these back together next time into taking that idea to the next spot, next place, and help you understand that a little bit more. I hope that was helpful. I hope that you found that useful. I hope I made sense, because I did not script it. I just kind of spoke about it. I'm finding it really difficult to speak to the camera because I'm used to speaking to a class. So I'm finding it a little hard to speak to a camera about some of these things, but I'm hoping that it's translating into something that you're finding helpful and useful. And let me know below. Comment below. I love reading your comments, whether it's about knitting, spinning, or anything else that you happen to see. And I will see you next time. Take care. Bye.